You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome to our podcast, Cards to the Moon. This is episode 78. My name is Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram. And with me today, as always, for this Friday episode is Hyung, who is Integrity Sports Cards on IG. And we're actually recording for the first time in your studio office.
That's right.
Which we like to call Integrity HQ.
Yep.
It's a beauty. So yeah, moving forward, we're hoping to produce more hobby-related content together, and we'll definitely let you guys know where to find it, whether it's on this podcast or on YouTube or on Instagram. We'll put all the links in the show notes below for each podcast episode. All right, so FYI, John will be back with us on our Tuesday episode. He couldn't make it today, so not to worry there. But for this episode, off the top, I'm sure we all heard about the record-breaking sale in the hobby of the iconic Mickey Mantle 1952 Topps baseball card, graded an SGC 9.5 via Heritage Auctions for a cool $12.6 million.
A cool 12.6, yeah.
So, Hyung, initial thoughts on the sale, and a question for you. Do you think this resets some of the hobby prices for super high-end vintage cards?
Absolutely. We talked about this before, how it's a positive in the hobby at the end of the day. It's like you're seeing these record-breaking sales on the higher-end cards. So it's like this is exactly what the hobby needs. And I'm not surprised. We talked about this before, saying this could potentially be the first 8-figure card. And sure enough, everybody's watching it. You see it all on our social feeds. And
right.
People are guessing what it's going for. And, jaws are dropping after it, hits over 10 plus, right? So I believe it's 12.6 after buyer's premium, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So the question is, how much is the buyer's premium? Jeez.
I got to recheck that, but yeah, if you do the math divided by 20%, yeah.
Yeah. So we got to open up an auction house.
With these high-end cards, what they're going for, it's a very lucrative business for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wouldn't be surprised myself if this record gets broken sooner than later, right? Like, I was thinking about that guy. I think his name was Rob Gould. Mm-hmm. He bought the PSA 9 of this Mickey Mantle,
right,
for 5.2.
And people were saying he was insane, but he looks like a genius now.
And that wasn't even that long ago. It was like about a year,
right,
or so. So imagine if he listed the card.
Absolutely,
like a PSA 9 would go more for SGC 9.5.
I agree. I think it's, well, if you think about it, it went for 12.6, and Ken Golden was kind of estimating that PSA 10 at 25 to 30, even north of 30.
Yeah.
So, if we go by our PSA standards, usually PSA 9 is about 50% of that. So right. You're right at 12.5 around.
It'd be close.
Yeah, it'd be very close. But like for me, I personally rather have that SGC 9.5, to be honest. Yeah, than the PSA 9. One, it looks super, super clean.
Right.
And then, there's not too many known copies floating around, so that one was labeled as the best known copy or whatever.
Okay.
It was on the label, right? So I personally would rather have the SGC no matter what. Like even though PSA is the powerhouse, but I mean, like, wouldn't you rather have a 9.5 than a 9?
It looks good in a tuxedo slab too, for sure.
But technically, they are the same. It would be a near mint or a mint plus, near mint plus or mint plus, right. Yeah. 9.5 versus a PSA 9, right? So
True.
Technically they're the same. It's not a gem. It's one below a gem on both sides.
Gotcha. Yeah. I know there's diehard PSA guys out there, right? So they would automatically go for the PSA 9.
Yes, but is the PSA 9 an old label?
I think so.
I think that changes things. Like I think aesthetic wise, it's like I don't like the old labels, to be honest. Some look really bad, but I mean, some people might not make a big deal out of it. But I think aesthetically, I think the newer PSA slabs have way more eye appeal, especially the really, really old ones where they don't have any, special security features or anything like that. It's just a barcode that looked like it was printed on a Canon printer, right? So,
yeah. Well, you can always crack it, right?
crack it and resubmit, right?
And just get re-slapped. That's all. Okay, it's a
know.
risk. It's a risk for a PSA 9. Yeah. Anyway, we'll just wait I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I'm pretty sure that we're gonna see another hobby headline where it's gonna be another record-breaking sale.
Absolutely.
Of these vintage cards. It's crazy. Okay, so for today's Friday episode discussion, I wanted to talk about what cards are we still bullish on, and possibly even doubling down on during this bear market, right? Because I know it's hard to buy, when card prices seem to be dropping every day.
Mm-hmm.
But we always say there's always opportunities in the bear market, and as long as we proceed with caution. So I can start first because I got a couple of cards for our show and tell, and this is the one I mentioned I think on our last episode when I said I bought off of Golden Auctions, and for our YouTube subscribers, it is the Fernando Tatis Jr. 2016 Bowman Chrome.
True gem too.
True gem. That was definitely a factor why I bid it for this prospect autograph card. And I think I mentioned last week it went for $901.
Wow, what a deal!
Yeah, less than $1,000. I love that price, and this is less to do with the bear market, but with the PED and just him taking a hit on its value.
Right.
I don't know. There's a part of me where he's just a young guy. I don't think he took PEDs to perform.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. It's like I personally think, I'm not saying it's gonna blow over, but I think we as collectors, we as fans, we're so emotional when it comes to things like that, and our mind is so set, but we don't know where the market's going to be, in a couple of years or the future. Like for me, it's do you believe in Tatis as a player? Right. Do you still do? You think this is going to really ruin his career? Yeah. I don't, And with that said, you know what? I was actually looking at Barry Bonds cards because of this.
Okay.
In light of this, talk about PEDs and stuff like that. It automatically went to the 86 Tiffany Bonds.
Yeah.
It's
a beauty.
And I think there's opportunity there. I was actually looking at a PSA 9 because I believe a PSA 9 fell under 1,000, but I see what's available in the recent prices. They're over 1,000. So it's sometimes you see cards that end up increasing even in a bear market, right? So for me, I think with this whole PED issue, I think one day people are going to look back and just go on Baseball Reference and go search Barry Bonds. It is undeniable that he absolutely dominated, and he is in the talks of the greatest player of all time, period. Right? And it's unfortunate that there's a lot of moral issues that people say, well, he cheated and stuff like that. But it has to be fair game at the end of the day. With there's a lot of people that I think just weren't tested, right? It was an era where the long ball was owned by the whole McGuire and Sosa chase,
right.
And then it made baseball exciting again. And for me, Barry Bonds is 22 years in the big, career 762 home runs, like
crazy.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, surpassed Hank Aaron. So for me, I watched Barry Bonds grow up, and even when I was playing professionally, he was still playing. So for me to see Barry Bonds, yeah, exactly. It's insane. And I think eventually, things will even out, right? But going to your point with Tatis, like I think that card is an amazing card. That's a card that, the Bowman Chrome 2016, where he's in the Chicago White Sox uniform. I think that's such an underrated card at $900, right? Like, I don't think I've ever seen that price go that low.
Yeah, me neither. And it's a risk, of course, but for me, it's a risk I'm willing to take because this card was 4,000 or so just in the spring. Do you know what I mean?
That's crazy. Yeah.
At the spring show that I went to, and I tried to trade it for my Vladimir Guerrero, and I'm glad I didn't because I just got my own now. The way things turned out. But to your point about Barry Bonds, I'm his talent's undeniable.
Look at that. We're looking at the graph right now.
Yeah, on card ladder.
That's consolidation right there. It's going to go one way or the other.
Yeah, from that point, for sure. I'm just showing him the peak at February 2021 was almost 2,500 US, and the last sold was just under 800.
Right.
So it's a good price to buy, I think.
And Bonds Tiffany isn't like the rarest Bonds you can get, but I think it's one of his best rookie cards out there for
Nice,
sure.
yeah.
I mean, anybody who's a fan of like vintage, Tiffany was kind of like the go-to card, lower print run, a clear, brighter back card stock. So the Topps Tiffany Bonds 86 is kind of, in my opinion, the Grail Barry Bonds card to
I
have.
agree, yeah, for sure. And I think the pop count, if people are wondering, is 1,399 actually. PSA 10, of course, is last sold was 6,600, and that's even pretty volatile. But it's not dropping anytime. Like despite all the allegations, despite how people feel about Barry Bonds, it's staying at a stable $6,000 for a PSA 10 pop count of 444. So just to give you guys some reference. Another card that I love, of course, now. He just hit his 50th home run. Aaron Judge.
Incredible. That was a great trade, by the way.
Yeah. I was banking on him having a great season. I don't know if you saw, I just saw my Instagram feed. He was in the batting cage warming up before the season started.
Yeah.
And he said to the camera, I'm hitting 50 this year.
Amazing. He already hit 50.
And then,
so with a month to go.
Yeah, it's not even September. That's the crazy part, right? So, yeah, good on Aaron Judge. He's going to be rewarded handsomely after the season.
Absolutely.
The Yankees, I'm sure, are going to give him whatever he wants. But yeah, like you mentioned, and I mentioned this on a previous podcast episode too, I traded my Lewis Robert and my Bo Bichette rookie autos. And unfortunately, I was high on them at the beginning of the season, but unfortunately, they're having down years. Or the expectation was just way too high for them.
Right.
And their card prices have plummeted. And it's to the point where I might get back into them, right? Yeah. Just rebuy after I traded the Aaron Judge, but I'm pretty happy with that. And like there are players like Aaron Judge, where even in the bear market, what they're doing in season is, their prices aren't going down anytime soon. Right. So sometimes you have to be lucky.
I think guys like Aaron Judge, they were so cheap at one point that's what you're seeing a whole bunch of corrections because people's buying patterns start changing, right? Even like me, I'm not even looking at like, I mean, I have enough Tatis to like go around for everyone, but like just in general, the cards that I'm looking at, like I wouldn't say never, but like Barry Bonds was never a buy for me. I start looking at guys like Ichiro and cards that are more rare. You see what Albert Pujols is doing. Mm-hmm. He's going to hit 700. So it's like long term, I'm looking at it as, hey, you know what? Like not saying I'm going to the older cards, but I'm kind of staying away from the more modern stuff. You mentioned like Bo Bichette and Luis Robert. I don't think, they're kind of underperforming like in terms of their expectation, but Luis Robert's still hitting over 300, for instance. Like to me, it's like, what does he have to do for his card prices to go on a positive trend? But if you ask yourself, well, it was too high from the get-go. How is it ever going to go on a positive trend, right? So I think it was just overpriced from the get-go, and stuff like Aaron Judge where it was too cheap. People are realizing, the Goldschmidts, even Goldschmidt was a perfect example. Like people were talking about triple crown candidate now, and I was watching that PSA 10, his Bowman First Blue,
right?
And I actually put in an offer. I lowballed him at like 1,400. He listed for 2,000. He sent a counter offer at 1,800. And the day like Goldie was like mentioned, I think he went like 3 for 5, and people were just like, this guy's gonna win MVP. The item sold for $1,850. That blue. So I was kind of kicking myself not taking the $1,800 deal. But guys are starting to realize that there's more value in certain type players, and this is what Scotty B was, I think, always kind of like chiming about, saying there's a lot of more opportunity than the shiny stuff, the new stuff that we talk, because the only really way to go in terms of those prices is down until they start creating like their career of their own, right? But then if you're waiting for Luis Robert and Bo Bichette to kind of do that, you have to look at Mookie Betts, look at guys like that where prices are still kind of like, they're not like over the top, right? So it's like I think it's going to take time. The market shifting in terms of the ultra modern cards. I think a lot more people are becoming smarter with their purchases as well. So I think those all play kind of like a factor in terms of where I'm kind of investing in this bear market.
Yep. Yeah. I think the whole purpose of this shorter Friday episode is, even in the bear market, don't sleep on the hobby as a whole. There's always opportunities to be had. One more thing I'll add to this conversation, I'm starting to look at guys that had a lot of hype last year and have gone down a lot because of the bear market. But instead of going for their base autos, I'm looking at their color parallels.
Color.
You know what I mean?
Nice.
Like, it's
non-autos or the parallels?
Both. Yeah,
okay.
Both. I mean, for basketball, it's like non-autos. I'm fine with.
That's kind of like
the color match prisms.
Right.
Tatum, Green, but like even we talked about it off air where Vlad Guerrero's cards are coming down to a point where it's enticing again.
I think he's a buy. Because I don't think people realize when this season's done, people will be like, oh, it wasn't that bad of a season. Actually, it was it's a very good season.
Yeah, exactly right. And like he's bringing up his average since the first half of the season, and now I'm looking at his blue like color match parallels, refractors,
right?
And that's kind of looking a little bit more attractive. It's a bit too high for me still,
right?
But I'm beginning to look at.
I was following a BGS blue auto that ended up closing at 1,500. I thought that was a little high for that still. So I was waiting for it to go down, but I guess people are still buying kind of like the higher end stuff.
Yep.
And then all the kind of like the lower end stuff is kind of like tanking. Yeah.
I think that's all good recommendations. Is there anything you're not buying during the bear market?
Oh man. Well, I haven't been ripping.
Okay.
Maybe because I'm busy like with this new place and stuff like that, and we want to create more content, obviously. So my energy and time has been kind of dedicated to what we do on a daily basis here. For my regular work in terms of the marketing. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like not buying, for me it's ultra modern, super young rookies that everybody's chasing.
Right.
I think that's kind of like you're playing you're buying into the hype right now, and in order for everything to pan out, it's going to sit sideways essentially, and as that happens, I think a lot of people are going to realize there are better opportunities, even long term, right? Like this is a different market from where it was 2 years ago. So it wasn't like you could buy, the newest, quarterback or whatever, and then you double your money, within the month or 2 months, right? Like I think in a bear market, guys, like that's the general consensus that the whole market's going down. So like the more you buy, there's a few cards that actually, are on a positive trend, right? So majority of the market is on a negative trend. So I think it's good to monitor and kind of stay away from kind of like the hyped price. I think a perfect example is Mike Trout. We talk about this, and I know, I probably get a lot of slack for it, but I don't think it can sustain itself. At the end of the day, that's why there's pop counts, and that's why there's big news that happen that affect kind of like card prices today. Even a guy like Mike Trout, a guy who established his career, you're seeing the same trend happen in terms of once an injury happens or once something happens, it's like people stop believing in that person, right? So it's like this is the scary part of, I guess, live people who have careers currently right now that are playing. Their careers aren't over. Instead of looking at it as someone like Barry Bonds or Ichiro or Albert Pujols who've kind of cemented their legacy, and you see it as, what, this might be a great keeper for my son when he grows up, or my grandkids, or whatever it may be, right? You look at it from a different perspective, not just a flipping perspective, right? So I'd say stay off of ultra modern, also ripping. I think ripping and you're gonna get crushed, and we're gonna do some video content to prove that. We're gonna open some boxes and see the negative ROI we get. So look forward to that.
It's you gotta hit it's like hitting the lottery, but it's a lot of fun ripping. But I agree with you. If there's one thing that really hasn't dropped in price, it's hobby boxes, retail.
Oh, it's crazy,
right? It's still as if the hobby wasn't declining at all.
Right.
So you gotta be careful. That's why breaks might be a better idea. But I totally agree with you. Ripping is probably not the way to go, at least on a consistent basis. You'll just lose money quickly. All right, I think that's again, Fridays are usually our shorter episode, but we wanted to at least touch upon, every once in a while that we are still in a bear, but we all have hope of this hobby turning things around. And like I think the last episode, there are still millions of dollars being invested in the hobby, which is always a good sign, that the hobby's still growing.
Absolutely.
That bigger players, corporate players are still interested in investing in the hobby.
Right.
So yeah,
I think like we said, I'll leave it with this. It's like we said back a bit ago when we were thinking that we're heading into a recession. Now that we're going in, interest rates are going up in terms of real estate and mortgages. So it's like this all plays into the factor, and a lot of the successful people, the entrepreneurs of the world, what they say is stack your cash right now because there's going to be buying opportunities left, right, and center still. Yeah. So it's one of those things where I'm being a lot more cautious because I'm still bullish on the market, but it's just a matter of time now where I'm gonna look for solid investment pieces, and maybe it's in the higher game, right? Like I do want to one day own a Mantle, for instance. So it's like going into kind of like that category where that was never even an option. A couple years ago, right? We're just going Louis Robert, baby, Boba Fett, baby, right? And then now it's kind of like as the market pivots, it's like, okay, long term, maybe not.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like my whole point is, stack the cash, get ready to pull the trigger.
Yeah. Excellent advice. All right, that will wrap up this Friday episode. We always thank our subscribers, our followers, our loyal listeners. We appreciate you guys. If you enjoyed this episode, we appreciate you going on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Give us a 5-star rating. And we'll see you again on Tuesday for our brand new episode with John. All right, see ya. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.